You thought success would make the loneliness disappear. Not immediately, just eventually, after the better job, after the better body, after the better apartment, after becoming the version of yourself that nobody could overlook. Because somewhere along the way a deal was made. Quiet deal. One you probably never spoke out loud. If you became valuable enough, successful enough, impressive enough, you would finally stop feeling so alone. And for a while it seemed true. Every achievement created a brief sense of relief, a brief sense of arrival, a brief sense that maybe you were finally becoming the person you were supposed to be. But the relief never lasted. The goal was reached. Then another appeared. The promotion happened. Then a bigger one became necessary. The body improved. Then the flaws became easier to notice. The life got better. Yet the loneliness somehow remained, waiting, quietly, patiently, as if it had never left. And that's when a disturbing question begins to emerge. What if success was never solving the loneliness? What if it was distracting you from it? For many gay men, this story doesn't begin with adulthood. It begins much earlier, long before careers, long before dating apps, long before achievement became an identity. It begins with a feeling. The feeling that being fully understood might not be guaranteed. The feeling that parts of yourself needed management, needed editing, needed protection. Even in supportive environments, many gay men become highly aware of perception, how they're seen, how they're judged, how they're interpreted, how they're compared. That awareness creates a habit. You start watching yourself, monitoring yourself, adjusting yourself. Without realizing it, you become both the person living your life and the person observing it. That changes people, because eventually your attention shifts away from a simple question, what do I want? And toward a more complicated one, what version of me will be accepted? The difference seems small, but it changes everything. One creates authenticity, the other creates performance. And performance is rewarding. People respond to it, approve of it, compliment it, celebrate it. So the behavior continues. Over time, achievement becomes more than ambition. It becomes emotional protection, a way to secure your place in the world, a way to avoid feeling disposable. Because one fear quietly follows many people through adulthood. The fear of emotional replaceability. The fear that someone better could always appear. Someone more attractive, more successful, more confident, more desirable. Modern culture feeds that fear constantly, especially online. Every scroll becomes a comparison. Every swipe becomes a ranking system. Every platform becomes a reminder that there is always someone younger, someone richer, someone more accomplished, someone receiving the attention you're trying to earn. And slowly, many people stop building a life. They start building proof. Proof that they're enough. Proof that they matter. Proof that they deserve to stay visible. That's where success becomes dangerous. Not because achievement itself is unhealthy, because it begins carrying emotional responsibilities it was never designed to carry. Success can create opportunities. Success can create freedom. Success can create security. But it cannot create belonging. And belonging is often the thing people were searching for all along. That's why some of the most successful people you will ever meet seem strangely restless. Nothing is technically wrong. Their lives look impressive. Their futures look promising. Their goals are being achieved. Yet they carry a quiet exhaustion. An exhaustion that comes from constantly proving something, constantly maintaining something, constantly earning something. Because when self-worth becomes tied to achievement, rest becomes difficult. You're never finished. There is always another milestone, another improvement, another target, another version of yourself waiting to be built. And loneliness loves that cycle, because constant movement prevents reflection. As long as you're chasing something, you don't have to sit with what still hurts. As long as you're improving, you don't have to ask why validation never feels permanent. As long as you're busy, you don't have to confront what achievement cannot fix. That realization often appears in unexpected moments. Not during failure, during success. After the goal is achieved. After the celebration ends. After the excitement fades. When you're finally alone again. And suddenly the achievement feels smaller than expected. Not meaningless. Just insufficient. That's the word many people struggle to explain. Insufficient. Because success solved practical problems. But emotional loneliness was never a practical problem. It was an emotional one. And emotional problems obey different rules. They don't disappear because your life looks better. They disappear when you feel safe enough to stop performing. That is much harder, especially in a culture that rewards performance. Today, people can receive attention every hour and still feel deeply disconnected. Messages, matches, likes, comments, compliments, visibility, endless visibility. Yet visibility is not intimacy. People often confuse the two. They mistake attention for connection, desire for understanding, admiration for love. But admiration observes. Love understands. Admiration celebrates strengths. Love survives imperfections. Admiration notices your success. Love notices your suffering. The difference becomes impossible to ignore once loneliness reaches a certain depth. Because eventually you start realizing something. Many people know your achievements. Very few know your fears. Many people know what you've accomplished. Very few know what keeps you awake at night. Many people know the version of you that performs well. Very few know the version of you that feels fragile. And that creates another contradiction. The more impressive your life becomes, the harder it can feel to reveal your struggles. Because now you have an image, a reputation, an identity, a standard. People expect strength from you, competence from you, confidence from you, and slowly vulnerability begins feeling risky. You become emotionally self-sufficient, at least on the surface. You handle everything alone, process everything alone, carry everything alone. You become the person everyone assumes is fine, the person who never needs help, the person who always seems okay. But emotional independence can become emotional isolation when taken too far. That happens more often than people realize. Because hyperindependence is frequently praised. People call it maturity, strength, self-reliance. But sometimes hyperindependence is simply loneliness wearing expensive clothes. It's loneliness that learned how to function. Loneliness that learned how to achieve. Loneliness that learned how to survive without expecting anyone to stay. That changes relationships. Quietly. Because when achievement becomes your primary source of worth, relationships start feeling dangerous. Not because intimacy is unwanted. Because intimacy is unpredictable. Achievement follows effort. Relationships do not. You can control your work. You cannot control another person's feelings. You can guarantee your productivity. You cannot guarantee someone's commitment. And for people who learn to trust performance more than vulnerability, achievement begins feeling safer than connection. Work becomes safer. Goals become safer. Progress becomes safer. The emotional investment shifts away from people and toward accomplishment, without them noticing, until one day they realize something strange. Their life is full, but they don't feel fulfilled. Their schedule is full, but their emotional world feels empty. Their calendar is crowded, yet they feel unseen. That contradiction hurts, because it exposes a truth modern culture rarely acknowledges. Being desired is not the same as being understood. Being admired is not the same as being loved. Being noticed is not the same as being known. Many people spend years chasing one while secretly needing the other. And the longer that continues, the more loneliness transforms. It becomes harder to identify, harder to explain. It no longer feels like sadness. It feels like restlessness, like emotional hunger, like constantly searching for something without knowing exactly what it is. That's because the deepest human desire is rarely attention. It's emotional rest. The feeling that you no longer have to earn your place in someone's life. The feeling that your worth is no longer being evaluated. The feeling that you can stop performing, stop proving, stop optimizing, stop becoming, and simply exist. For many people, that feeling is unfamiliar. Not because they don't deserve it, because they've spent years building identities around achievement, years building lives around proving their value, years believing that if they became extraordinary enough, loneliness would finally release them. But loneliness doesn't negotiate with achievement. It never did, because loneliness was never asking for perfection. It was asking for connection. Not witnesses, connection. Witnesses observe your life. Connection enters it. Witnesses applaud your success. Connection survives your uncertainty. Witnesses know what you've accomplished. Connection knows who you are when everything falls apart. That is the difference. And perhaps that is the hidden psychological wound beneath all of this. The belief that worth must be demonstrated before belonging can be received. The belief that love arrives after achievement. The belief that being impressive is safer than being vulnerable. Those beliefs create successful people. But they don't always create fulfilled ones. Eventually, life forces the same question onto everyone. Not how much you've achieved. Not how much you've earned. Not how admired you've become, but who knows the version of you that exists underneath all of it. The version that achievement was protecting. The version that success was distracting. The version that still wonders whether it is enough without accomplishments attached to it. Because one day the goals become quieter. The applause becomes quieter. The distractions become quieter. And all that remains is the truth. The truth that achievement can improve your life. But it cannot replace intimacy. Cannot replace emotional safety. Cannot replace being deeply known. And perhaps the most difficult realization of all is this. You were never actually chasing success. Not entirely. You were chasing the feeling you hoped success would give you. The feeling of being chosen. The feeling of being safe. The feeling of finally being enough. But those feelings were never waiting at the finish line. They were waiting in the places achievement could never reach. In vulnerability. In connection. In emotional honesty. In allowing yourself to be known without needing to be impressive first. Because the deepest loneliness isn't having nobody around you. It's believing that who you are is less valuable than what you accomplish. And the moment that belief begins to break, something changes. For the first time, success stops being a hiding place and starts becoming exactly what it was always meant to be. Just one part of your life, not the thing carrying your entire worth.